to you, you. Good morning, good morning to you. Good morning, good morning. Won't you share with a friend or two? Good morning, good morning to you. You, 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 good morning, good morning, good morning to you, and many more. Good morning, good morning, good morning, and welcome, welcome, welcome to Daring Dialogues. I am your host today, Shantae Charles. We were having a little bit of technical difficulty on our Facebook page, Black Table Talk, but we are here. So we are going to continue and keep going. I hope everybody is having a great and wonderful day. I hope everybody is in a good space, good headspace. I hope that everybody is safe wherever you are. Want to just give a shout out to my Florida friends. Good morning. Um, Hopefully, everybody in the path of the new hurricane, Hurricane Milton, is doing what you need to do in order to prepare. We have, and I have posted some things on my TikTok, as well as my Black Table Talk page, as far as helpful information, places you can call if you need to evacuate, if you're looking for shelter, those kinds of things are on that page. And of course, if you are in the Tampa area in the direct line of the evacuation zones, I am going to encourage you as your friend to make sure that you evacuate. Hopefully, you started evacuating Monday as this storm inches closer. We know that schools are canceled. Some businesses, I think, are still open, but obviously, those businesses are probably going to close down by this evening or early tomorrow morning. So, hopefully, you're able to make provisions to evacuate. Your life is too precious to just not take what's happening seriously. So that's the first thing that I want to say. Like I said, I think I was sharing about a little bit about Hurricane Andrew on yesterday's broadcast. I lived through Hurricane Andrew. Hurricane Andrew clocked at 200 miles per hour in my neighborhood, in the hood. And the only thing, it was really by the grace of God, the only thing that kept my home from not blowing away was the fact that we were living in um, lower income housing that happened to be made of concrete block. That's the only thing that saved our little duplex that we were living in that was 2 bedrooms. It was concrete block. Other people's homes around us flattened. All they were left with was the concrete slab. So um, this is nothing to play with. And I know they say the official death toll for Hurricane Andrew was 65 people. That's the official death toll. There were many more people, hundreds of people that died in Hurricane Andrew, but because they were undocumented citizens, they did not count them in that death toll. Yeah. My aunt, who was a detective at the time, who was a part of some of the like rescue efforts and stuff, she was down in the Homestead area. She told us they were finding people packed in trucks, packed in 18 wheelers, who are trying to escape from the storm. They found them all unalived. Hundreds of people packed into an 18 wheeler trying to shelter from the storm. So there were more people that died than 65 people in Hurricane Andrew. I just want to put that out there on the record because I keep seeing that number and I'm like, no, those are the official recorded numbers, but there were people that died that did not get counted in those numbers because they were undocumented. So that's that. All right. One thing I want to address, and I'm going to also address it again. Um, I'm going to also address it again on Black Table Talks page. When people come into your space and you are talking about an important topic, especially the isms, racism, uh, all of the isms, right? Ageism, discriminatory practices, and someone comes into your space and they say, well, not all people are doing da 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 da. Listen, if someone is explaining something to you and they have not used the word all, you don't have to give the not all speech because that is implied. Most of us know that not all people are doing certain things, but when it's pointed out what the thing is, people do not want to lecture about not all because that's not what we're addressing. We're addressing what the issue is. And here's the other piece about that. Not all, and if you're going to say not all, you need to add, but far too many. For example, not all white people are racist, but far too many are. Okay? Right? Not all people are XYZ, but far too many are. So when people are trying to address an injustice, you need to acknowledge the injustice that they're addressing, but far too many people are. Not all people are bad in this way, but far too many people are. So we need to address the far too many because that's what the subject or that's what the topic is. And then the other term I keep hearing being thrown around is demonic and occultic. Demonic and occultic. Demonic and occultic. And usually when I hear these terms, they are specifically directed towards things that melanated peoples, black peoples, indigenous peoples are doing. And they get labeled demonic and occultic. Now, why do I have a problem with that? Because when I think about demonic and occultic, I think about things like lynchings. I think about things like castrations. I think about cannibalism. I think about torching people's churches. I think about going inside of a church and unaliving 9 people in a Bible study. And I don't ever hear the words demonic or occultic being used with those things, and yet they have been done. And I specifically don't hear those things being called demonic and occultic by the people that really need to be addressing it because it's coming out of their community. I don't hear people saying it's demonic and occultic to go into a school and unalive people, to go into a salon or to go into a spa just because somebody is of a different ethnicity or different culture or different faith than you and unalive people. That's demonic. But we don't hear those words being used to characterize those things. And so if you're going to use those words, at least use it with the things that are actually demonic and occultic. And how about you address the parts of your culture that is committing these atrocities and call that demonic and occultic? Oh, thank you. Storming the Capitol, threatening to lynch the VP at the time. That's demonic and occultic. But nobody used those words around that. So I need us to understand how words that we use, word choices that we use is impacting things. And things that really are demonic and really are occultic and really should be addressed in that light are often not addressed in that light by the same people waving those words around and using them and weaponizing them against communities of color, Black people, indigenous people, persons of color. So let's not do that. And if you're going to address things that are demonic and occultic, start with your own community that's committing atrocities against other people. Let's start there. Let's call a thing a thing. But you know what? I don't see that happening. I don't. I don't see that happening. I don't see white pastors getting up in the pulpit talking about the demonic and occultic things that white nationalists who call themselves Christians are doing to the nation. The doctrines that they're propagating, I don't see that being called demonic and occultic from the sacred desk. Can y'all please address that on a Sunday morning? I want us to do that. How about we do that? Okay? All right. Off that soapbox. Today, it is Black Table Talk, and we're talking today from the book by Bell Hooks that we've been reading called Rock My Soul, Black People and Self-Esteem. With the caveat being that Bell Hooks wrote this particular writing, it came out in 2003. So last time we talked a little bit about how some things have changed and how some things remain the same. Even though this came out in the early 2000s, some of the things that she's addressing in here are still being addressed or still have not found a full resolve. So we're ending this chapter, and this chapter is entitled Ending the Shame That Binds, chapter 3. And she's talking about the shame that has been propagated for decades, centuries around Blackness, around the color Blackness, around being melanated, around the color of melanin in one's skin. And she's talking about how there has been a color cast, that the darker you are, that sometimes you are treated much worse than your lighter counterparts who may also be Black. And now she's going to talk about male bodies, Black male bodies, and some of the things that have gone on there. All right, so I want to give us some context before I start reading. And she says, quote, even though Black male bodies of all shades and hues are deemed attractive and desirable now by mainstream media, especially because of the positive representation of these bodies in sports, Black men still feel shame about skin color. Significantly, as the Black male body began to be represented positively in popular culture, especially in the world of advertising, that body was and is hypersexualized. This modern reconfiguration of the Black male as sexual predator in no way differs from the negative racist stereotypes that prevailed in the 19th century and early 20th century. Now, because I know that is the literary version of what she said, I want to see if I can find you the visual of what she is saying. This was a very, very popular cover that came out, and I want to see if I can get the best Yeah, there we go. I want to see if I can get the best visual to bring up for you all to actually see this. So I can't tell what issue this was, but this was the issue in Vogue magazine. And hopefully, when I hold this up, you'll be able to see it clearly. Okay. Now, he is, of course, one of the most well known, considered one of the best players, right, in the NBA. Okay. And they were featuring him on this cover, but they were featuring him in beast mode, right? Now, of course, if you know anything about history, you know how that trope of the black man being a beast is has racist undertones, but it also has sexual predator nature undertones to it as well. We don't have time to go into the history of that. But I'll read it to you again what she just said. In the world of advertising, the body of the black male is hypersexualized. This modern reconfiguration of the black male as sexual predator in no way differs from the negative stereotypes that prevailed in the 19th century and the early 20th century. The difference is that the idea of the black male as inherently a bestial sexual predator is now often portrayed as cool. Okay, he's on the cover of Vogue. That's like high fashion, right? It's portrayed as cool now, but it wasn't always that way. And the dehumanizing nature of this construction is now obscured. And of course, there is little work done on the waning self esteem of black males that connects the two issues. Overall, black males have responded with collusion and passivity to the resurgence of these stereotypes. If we're going to be recasting it as a cool thing, then we'll let it fly. In all the cases where acceptance of color cast and denigration of the black body has meant more employment or even the acquisition of wealth, black folks tend to minimize the psychological impact. So, yes, you're getting paid. Yes, you're making money, but there's still a psychological impact that is happening to you. Aware black actors who play roles in media that correspond to degrading negative stereotypes may recognize the hypocrisy of their actions. They may see that these roles may reinforce racism and white supremacy, but they justify their actions by arguing that this is what they must do to be paid. Like many concerned anti racist activists, I have pondered why Black people in general have gained a measure of equality within our existing social system, and yet these gains have had so little impact on our collective self esteem. When we examine the issue of self acceptance as a crucial component of self esteem, it is evident that shaming about the Black body continues to be a norm and assaults the sensibilities of Black folks from all walks of life. Talented, economically successful Black folks often have low self esteem in relation to their bodies, and their disadvantaged poor peers may suffer from the same malaise. This low self esteem may lead them to self sabotage in areas where they may have all the skills to excel. To change the efforts of low self esteem related to body image, representations of Blackness must change on all levels in our society. And in those instances where we cannot change the representation, we need to be critically vigilant, exercising our right to boycott products, to turn off our television sets, to send magazines back to publishers. Imagine how different Black life would be if so many of us did not passively consume television. Before I knew about the existence of the book Nappy Hair, I wrote and sold a children's book called Happy to Be Nappy. My intent was not to follow the usual routine of books marketed to Black children and write a usual story that tells them how bad they are, but that they should love themselves. The self esteem of Black children is threatened when a children's book that suggests you can mock, ridicule, and shame them, and they will triumph in the end, is designated as positive. This is dangerous propaganda rooted in faulty logic. All Black folks risk being victimized by the perpetuation of the notion that we can triumph with ease over degradation and dehumanization. Conservative, separatist, black nationalists have been and continue to be the group that most identify self esteem as a political issue. Yet their work is often biased by patriarchal and fundamentalist religious thought. Since we live in an integrated society, it's essential that Black folks cultivate self esteem that is sustained in both predominantly Black and non Black settings. The culture of white supremacist capitalist patriarchy assaults Black self esteem. However, there are many strategies that we can use to resist these assaults. When we decolonize our minds, we can maintain healthy self esteem despite the racism and white supremacy that surrounds us. All right, in her next chapter, chapter 4, she's going to be talking about living with integrity. What does it mean to construct a self esteem that is one where you are living with integrity? What is or what should be our belief in ourselves? How can we live in a way that is integrous to who we are while we are dealing with a system of what I call pseudo supremacy? All right. So that is what I wanted to share with you today. I encourage you, if you are looking for a study that deals with and delves into the history of Black people around self-esteem, um, she does a really good job of that in this book. So I encourage you to pick it up, learn a little something, share it with someone else, highlight, underscore, mark it up. She does provide, I feel like, a pretty in depth telling of the things that Black people have had to endure and had to press through. And she really starts in the 50s and the 60s. So if you're looking for a book that kind of dives into what was happening in that era of time, this is a good read to check out. All right. I want to thank those of you who came on today. Thank you for your time and attention. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. If you want to participate in the talk back, we hold that right now on Instagram. You can join us there. The Instagram page is at Daring Dialogues, all one word, and we'll see you in that space. Be well and be light.